Welcome to This Week in Anderson County. I'm your host, Chad McNabb. We appreciate you tuning in. Tonight, our topic is going to be the recent failure of the amendment that would have allowed 4 national retailers to come to Main Street, Oak Ridge. It's been a very hot topic among Oak Ridge City Council as of late, and we're going to get to that. We are absolutely thrilled to have with us Mayor Warren Gooch of Oak Ridge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chad, thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I appreciate the invitation. Obviously, this is a very important topic, and I know Oak Ridgers are interested in it, and people all around the region. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you tonight.
Absolutely, and we're going to get to that. A lot to talk about on that issue. Mayor, last time you were here, we had about 4 or 5 people on the stage, and it was election season. And of course, you did really well, re-elected in that election. We congratulate you on that. And but we didn't, as a consequence of having so many people, we didn't get a lot of time to talk. There was a lot of everyone had to have equal time. I do want to give you an opportunity to tell our viewers a little bit about your background. They may have even voted for you, but maybe not have heard your story.
All right. Well, I'm originally from Jefferson County, grew up in White Pine, went to high school in Morristown, graduated from Morristown West. I'm very proud of the fact that I was inducted into the Morristown West High School Hall of Fame earlier this fall, which was a great honor. I married my childhood sweetheart, Judy Carr from Jefferson City. We are blessed to have two sons who graduated from Oak Ridge High School, Ryan and Matt. We have 4 grandchildren. I'm a partner in the Kramer Race Law Firm where I've practiced for 42 years. I'm a healthcare lawyer. I represent hospitals and healthcare entities across the state. I was elected to City Council in 2014. Elected by my colleagues for my first 2-year term as mayor. I've served 4 years as mayor and have just been reelected, and so the City Council and starting another term as mayor. So it's a privilege for me to represent the citizens of Oak Ridge.
And Mayor, going back to 2014 when you were elected, what first made you want to run for mayor? Where does that calling for public service come from?
Well, actually, my father was mayor in White Pine, and we've my family had been active in public affairs, civic affairs, and politics for many years. And I had the opportunity in 2014 to run. Obviously, Judy and I and the boys have lived here since 1993. I ran on a platform of trying to encourage more residents to come to live in Oak Ridge, more commercial and retail investment, and to move the city forward with our excellent school system, the beauty that surrounds us. And I ran very hard on that platform. And again, last year, 2018, again, working to turn the economic conditions around in the city. I think we're doing great, and we need to continue it. And certainly, Main Street is a big part of that, and we need to be sure that Main Street is a success.
Absolutely. And looking back over your first term, and of course, getting ready to look ahead, what are some of your proudest accomplishments at this point that you've been able to accomplish?
I think obviously bringing back collegiality to the members of council. We have a great council. I've enjoyed serving with all the members of council from 2014 to now. Certainly we have the best relationship with Anderson County government that the city of Oak Ridge has enjoyed in many years, some say in history, and the fact that we have a great working relationship with the Oak Ridge school system, and that is clearly very important. Oak Ridge school system was just named again this year, or this week, as the #1 school system in the state by the Ritchie group that measures school performance and the quality of schools. And so we're very proud of that. Certainly being able to get Main Street going, and the fact that council working together with the city manager and our dedicated city employees we were able to get that deal accomplished and bring new retail to the center of the city. The fact that we were able to get a really unique transaction with the Department of Energy where the old AMSI property was transferred to the city. The city was able to work an arrangement with Realty Link for Realty Link to be able to acquire that property in exchange for building the new AMSI. And the new AMSI is a tremendous facility, and it obviously opened earlier this fall, and Realty Link built that building for at the Department of Energy specifications. DOE has free rent for that building for the next 15 years and free utilities. So it was a win-win. And so those are some of the I think, our proudest accomplishments working together, as a council.
Absolutely. And before we do get into the news of the last couple of weeks, I always like to ask people sort of big picture questions, leadership questions. How is it that you have been able to accomplish so much in such a short period of time?
Well, I think it's very important to delegate responsibilities. And you'll see a great example of that in the second half of your show when Councilman Kelly Callison is on here, and he is chairman of our budget committee. What I've tried to do over the last 4 years, and will continue to do this, is be sure that every member of council has one or more assignments where they're working on projects and issues that are priorities for the city, but also priorities for that particular member of council. And so, again, Oak Ridge is a very challenging city.
Absolutely.
We have lots of issues that other cities 3, 4, 10 times our size don't have to deal with. So that's why the relationship among the council members and everybody contributing in a substantive manner is so important.
Absolutely. And getting into the issue that we've been talking about all week, if you could just give our viewers an overview of where the Main Street project is. Of course, the development plan amendment was proposed in order to allow the 4 national retailers to come in. If you could explain that to our viewers in case they haven't been following.
Okay. Well, let's start out with a little context and remember where we were 2 years ago. The mall was, the old Oak Ridge Mall was basically dead with the exception of 2 outstanding retailers, Penny's and Belk. When we moved here in '93, the mall was still active, and at that point it was pretty well occupied. At that time, it generated for Anderson County and the city of Oak Ridge, its value was $66 million for property tax purposes and all the sales tax that was generated by sales. So move forward to 2016 when ground is broken on Main Street, and the value of that 60 acres had dropped from $66 million to $6 million.
Wow.
Well, think about the negative impact that it had on property tax that goes to fund the general funds for Oak Ridge, and also property tax that helps fund the Oak Ridge school system, the Anderson County school system, not to mention the loss of sales tax.
It's got to be devastating.
Right. It was. And so that's why Main Street is so important in my estimation in terms of the future of our city, both our financial performance and being able to maintain a top quality school system. So phase 1 for Main Street was completed, and there's still work going on one store, Burke's, which will conclude the first phase of Main Street, and the first phase has been tremendously successful.
Absolutely.
It was sales tax from 2018 to 2017 was up $1 million just on the Anderson County side. Now, obviously, that was not all related to Main Street, but a big portion of it was. So during the shopping season this year, we have information from Retail Strategies, which is a national company. That not only did we have people coming from all over Oak Ridge and Anderson County and Roane County, but coming from Hardin Valley, coming from deep west Knox County. As a matter of fact, think about the area between the Great Smoky Mountains over to the Kentucky border to the north, over to the Cumberland Plateau, down as far as McMinn County, and people all across that area, thousands of them came to shop in Main Street.
Sure.
And it's been a great success. So Realty Link, which is the developer, as a result of the competition for the national stores and market conditions generally, filed an amendment to change what had been the original plan, called a planned unit development. And they wanted to change the second phase of the planned unit development. And that would have required closing one of the turn-ins or entrances to Main Street. It would have done away with the roundabout because the space between Penny's and Electronic Express was going to be used to house the new retailers. Now, what I hope people will understand is Realty Link is a very successful company. They do business across the country. They have lots of contacts. They've been very successful, and I would just encourage people to go on their website and look at some of the centers and retail developments that they have developed, and they can see the types of retailers that have been contracted with in other parts of the South. Realty Link's done their projects, and you can get an idea of perhaps who some of the new retailers were going to be. We don't know for sure, but the past is a pretty good indication. So what that was going to do, however, was change the configuration of Phase 2 of Main Street. It was going to change where where there were going to be green spaces, where there was going to be mixed-use development. And that was going to be a change. But clearly, Realty Link wanted to do the mixed-use development up and down Wilson Street. I think it's very important, too, for everyone to understand that Wilson Street has been completely redone and been turned into a real city street, not just a path. I think somewhere in the range of $1.5 to $1.8 million has been spent redoing Wilson Street, putting in new utilities up and down the street, and that connects, obviously, as people know, from Rutgers to Tulane. So, all that having been said, Realty Link filed the amendment to the planned unit development. Now, again, remember, it wasn't the site plan that was being voted on. It was the amendment to the planned unit development. And there was considerable debate by the Planning Commission, and they approved the plan on a divided vote, but they added something in a range of 10 conditions that they wanted Realty Link to meet. And they wanted Realty Link to guarantee certain things, and they wanted Realty Link to do this and do that. And Realty Link said we can do some of them, others we can't. And so that recommendation came from the Planning Commission to the City Council in December. And in a very long but productive meeting, I think it was about 4 hours, Council went through every one of the conditions and recommendations that the Planning Commission made, and the response of Realty Link as to whether they could do them or not do them.
Sure.
And some Council said we're going to take out. We revised some others, and after considerable debate and members of council expressing their opinions on what needed to be done and what they liked or didn't like, the PUD was approved on first reading, and it was approved unanimously. Now, with an ordinance, it has to be passed twice, 2 readings, and so we came back in January. The Planning Commission expressed their opposition to the action that council had taken on first reading. Didn't like the fact that Realty Link was not going to have to comply with the conditions all of the conditions that the Planning Commission had put on Realty Link. And again, after considerable debate, we voted, and the second reading, the ordinance failed on a split vote, 3 votes for, 4 votes against. So that's where we are today as it relates to Main Street. Realty Link, after the vote, had to announce or go to the national retailers that they were dealing with and tell them we're going to have to postpone coming before you to get you to agree to come to Oak Ridge until we see what the final resolution is on the planned unit development. So that's a long story, but
important for context, and a good spot to take a commercial break. Before we do so, I do want to, doing this show, of course, we can't do it without sponsors. I do want to thank our sponsor this week, Peter's Jewelers, right here in Oak Ridge, 483-9074. Please go see Shane and Misty there. They will take care of all your needs for Valentine's Day coming up. Just a wonderful business here in Oak Ridge that will take good care of you. We'll be right back after this commercial break with Mayor Warren Gooch to talk more about where we are on the Main Street project. Stay with us.
We are ASAP. We are ASAP of Anderson, and our mission is to prevent and reduce substance misuse among youth and adults in Anderson County. Prevention is providing information and building skills, but it is also providing support, changing access, changing consequences, changing the physical design of the community, and modifying policy. What role will you play in preventing substance misuse? Find out more at asapofanderson.org.
After doing the reverse mortgage, I found out it's not too good to be true. I can travel now. I actually have a savings account that I was unable to maintain before, and I can do the things that I really want to do. And the house, the beauty of it, it's all true. I own the house, and now it doesn't own me.
Stop by your 10 Bank today, 463-9444.
When it's time for your engagement plan, see the professionals at Peter's Jewelers. You will find a huge bridal selection of wedding rings for all tastes and budgets. And at Peter's Jewelers, their skilled jewelers can handcraft just about any piece. If you can dream it, Peter's Jewelers can make it. Peter's Jewelers is a family-owned company with years of experience providing good old-fashioned customer service with attention to every detail. When quality counts, trust the professionals at Peter's Jewelers. 1159 Oak Ridge Turnpike in Oak Ridge.
Well, my name is Carmel Beatty, and this is my son Lachlan, and he's 4. He has Down syndrome. And a couple of years ago, we looked for a program for him to attend, a daycare or a preschool. And we really weren't prepared for the obstacles that we encountered when we were looking for a program for him, just because he's not on the developmental level of a typical child. But we found the Early Learning Center, and without hesitation, they said they would be happy to have him, they would be happy to serve him. And he has really enjoyed coming here. He's been here almost 2 years. He's thrived in their program. They don't hesitate if they need to make adaptations for an activity for him to participate. We've always tried to just form his life around him being a typical child, that he's not different from the other kids. And that's really the way we're treated here, and it's really helped our family to also see him, you know, as just like any other child. The Early Learning Center is definitely a family, and we couldn't be happier with our services here and the time that we've spent here.
Welcome back to This Week in Anderson County. We are very pleased and honored to have Mayor Warren Gooch of Oak Ridge with us, who really, you just did a great job setting the table as far as where we are at Main Street in Oak Ridge, as far as the project goes. If you could give our viewers sort of an overview of what could potentially happen if Realty Link and the council can't come to an agreement.
Well, I think what we're going to do next is take up another phase of the Realty Link development and the development of new apartments on Tulane at the old AMC site, which had been approved by the Planning Commission and been passed on first reading by council. That's 217 units, basically between the old AMC building and the back of the property that's borders City Hall. So we will take that up in February, hopefully work through those issues, and I think that there's going to be a positive vote on that. Then we'll wait to see when Realty Link comes back either with a resubmission of the plan that they put before the Planning Commission, or if they make changes. And as soon as they do, we're going to push Planning Commission to take it up, and we're going to get it back before council, and we're going to do everything we can possibly do to get it approved. I know there are differences of opinions related to that, but I just think it is absolutely vital that phase 2 go forward. We need the additional retailers. We need the additional sales tax that they will generate for a number of reasons. But one of the most important is the fact that every dollar of sales tax, a portion of it is dedicated to pay off the debt on our wonderful high school. We still owe $57 million on the high school. And starting in 2021, 22, we're going to see a big spike in the debt service on the high school with the way the bonds were issued. And that's going to continue up for the next 15 years or so before it levels and goes back down. So we need the sales tax that's generated from not only Main Street, but the other economic development that's going on around town. But clearly, Main Street is the driver. I want us to avoid the perfect storm that could hurt Oak Ridge, and that is in 2021 we will lose the Hall income tax. People say, well, Mayor, what's the Hall income tax? Well, it is a tax the state of Tennessee had for 100 years on investment income. And Oak Ridge has generally received somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 in taxes on the Hall income tax based on the taxes that were paid in Oak Ridge. So that goes away in 2021. At the same time, the debt service on the high school goes up. We have additional debt service related to the new pre-K school and the senior center, as well as the other existing debt. The difficulty is with the high school debt is we can't refinance it for a number of years, again, based on the terms and conditions of the bond. So the thought had been all along that the new revenue from sales tax in Main Street, again, would go to help pay for the debt service that we've incurred. Now, we have to, best we can, try, in my view, avoid property tax increases because we've got 4 new housing developments going on in town, and I know Chairman Callison is going to want to talk about that. But we don't want it to raise property taxes, first of all, if we can avoid it, because that has an adverse impact on the ability of the real estate developers, residential developers, to sell their product. And again, part of this, my concern about Main Street being delayed, whether it's 2 months, 4 months, whatever, it has an impact on the construction schedule. And again, the national retailers basically say, here is the months that we are willing to open a new store. Here is where that store is going to be. Here is the price that we're going to pay per square foot. Here is the number of parking spaces that we're going to have for every square foot in the store. And so a lot of people simply don't understand that Realty Link just can't, agree to keep things as is if that's going to cause us to lose our chance to get 4 additional major retailers, maybe more, maybe a few less, but nonetheless, that's where we are. In addition to the fact, what a negative story it sends to the business community across the country if Oak Ridge somehow shoots itself in the foot again on a major development. We have to compete every day for new residents and new investment in our city. And we've been doing pretty well, but we don't want to lose our momentum. And as I say, Chad, in most of my public appearances and my remarks, Oak Ridge has momentum, but you can't bank momentum. You've got to use it, and it can go away as quickly as it came. And in my opinion, if we can't move forward with Main Street, we're sending a negative statement to businesses across the country that are considering us. We don't help our ability to attract new people to come to town, because everybody understands we need new and better retail. We need new and better housing stock. And again, Councilman Callison can talk to you about that. We've got a great workforce. We have great public schools. Great public schools. The only school system in the state of Tennessee, and I think the only second one in the country that is STEM certified K through 12. Well, that costs money. And today, we spend $4,000 more per pupil expenditure on students in the Oak Ridge school system than our neighbors in Knox County, our neighbors in Maryville. And so we're proud of that because of the quality that we produce. But we have to have the resources not only to pay for the schools, but to pay our dedicated city employees, our fire, police, public works, electric, that provide the services that are critical. And in the state of Tennessee, cities can raise revenue 2 ways. Basically, by their property tax and through their sales tax. And so that's, again, why Main Street's so important.
Eloquently stated. And Mayor, I want to share with you, we ran a poll all week on Facebook as far as, we've heard probably more on this issue than any other issue we've covered on the show. We've asked our viewers to vote to see how they would have actually, like what amendment they would have liked to see passed. It was overwhelming with 86% over about a 400 vote sample voted to amend the plan. We've just been getting incredible feedback on this. People are very passionate about it. And I want to encourage our viewers to call their city councilman if you are an Oak Ridge resident. We're going to try to get the numbers up there as far as to let them know what you're thinking. This is a very, very passionate issue. I do want to ask you, Mayor, with all that you've laid out for us, is there still time to salvage this deal with Realty Link?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure.
We can do this. I view this, as I say, as a bump in the road.
Sure.
But we've got to get this fixed. We've got to move on. Oak Ridgers want Main Street. I think your poll certainly supports that. I know with the people that I've talked to, and I'm out and about doing lots of places, talking to lots of people, and certainly the vast majority of the people that I've talked to want Main Street to go forward and want this plan amended and let Realty Link get on with developing not only the new retail, but the mixed use, which would include residential and commercial, and that's vitally important, in our center city, and helps position us to go forward. But it's like everything else. They take one phase, their profitability from it, they use to invest in the second phase. And in terms of Realty Link, I want to say this. I mean, they've already spent tens of millions of dollars. And they've borrowed more, and the principals in Realty Link have personally guaranteed that debt. So these are responsible people. They've got a great track record, and I'm confident that we're going to move forward. I think we'll be able to allay some of the concerns that have been expressed. But at the end of the day, this is my view. At the end of the day, we have got to have new sales tax. We've got to have new property tax. And retail, despite what some people say, retail's not going away, and we can have another show on that sometime. It would probably be good for your viewers to hear from Parker Hardy, the Chamber of Commerce president, talking about retail. I think Chairman Keys Philhour, our school board, and Dr. Borchers are going to be on your program soon, and they want to talk about the impact that taxes and the revenue have on our ability, to maintain our schools. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get this done, and it may not be a 7-0 vote finally. If it's 4-3, if we can pick up, change one vote, that would be the best thing that's happened to the city of Oak Ridge in years. And I do encourage everybody to talk to us, whether you agree or disagree with us. That's what it's about.
Mayor, I can't, again, thank you enough for coming on and sharing
Chad, I appreciate the invitation more than you know.
Hey, and I just want to thank you, just as somebody that's lived in Anderson County my whole life, as somebody that remembers the old mall. It's just such an exciting time in this city, and your leadership has a lot to do with that. We do thank you.
Thank you. And like I say, great things happen in Oak Ridge every day, and tomorrow will be no exception.
That's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
I want to encourage our viewers to stay with us. We're going to be blessed to have Chairman of the Budget Committee and City Councilman Kelly Callison on to share his views on the Main Street project. Also want to encourage you to check out Peter's Jewelers. Again, they were so kind to sponsor us this week. They've got a great Valentine's Day special running that I'm going to be able to show you before the show ends. So please give them business for helping us out here. We'll be right back after this message.
My name is Sabrina Sumlin, and Healthy Families Tennessee has helped me a lot. As a first-time mom, they taught me a lot about newborn care, and they also helped a lot with development as my son got older. The person that comes is Leona, and she interacts with Jackson so well. And there's a book where she goes through different milestones I should be expecting and ways to deal with terrible twos or just different things, even when he first started eating solid food. And she makes sure to include advice for him as our son gets older, as well as the advice for me. in some of the simplest ways, just as having someone to talk to. When you're a stay-at-home mom and you're at home with a toddler all the time, you don't get out a lot. And so that's one just really simple way.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to home. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
When it's time for your engagement plan, see the professionals at Peters Jewelers. You will find a huge bridal selection of wedding rings for all tastes and budgets. And at Peters Jewelers, their skilled jewelers can handcraft just about any piece. If you can dream it, Peters Jewelers can make it. Peters Jewelers is a family-owned company with years of experience providing good old-fashioned customer service with attention to every detail. When quality counts, trust the professionals at Peters Jewelers. 1159 Oak Ridge Turnpike in Oak Ridge.
After doing the reverse mortgage, I found out it's not too good to be true. I can travel now. I actually have a savings account that I was unable to maintain before. And I can do the things that I really want to do. And the house, the beauty of it, it's all true. I own the house, and now it doesn't own me.
Stop by your 10 Bank today, 463-9444.
The United States Air Force has a proud history of leading our nation in embracing diversity. We've been reaching new heights for years by understanding it's our individual experiences which make us strong. You can share in this success by seeking opportunities to learn and grow as a member of a diverse team. We are the world's greatest Air Force, not because of what we do, but who we are. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
We are ASAP of Anderson, and our mission is to prevent and reduce substance misuse among youth and adults in Anderson County. Prevention is providing information and building skills, but it is also providing support, changing access, changing consequences, changing the physical design of the community, and modifying policy. What role will you play in preventing substance misuse? Find out more at asapofanderson.org.
In Vietnam, we took care of each other.
In combat, you look out for your battle buddy.
I'd do anything for my unit.
When things get tough, it's great to know
somebody's there for you.
Every step of the way.
DAV stands behind America's veterans to make their transition back home easier, with free services and help getting the benefits they've earned. Help us fulfill the promise to our men and women who served. Go to DAV.org to learn more.
Welcome back to This Week in Anderson County. I'm your host, Chad McNabb. We are getting to the second segment of our program. We are honored to be joined by Councilman Kelly Callison of the Oak Ridge City Council. We sure appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. Before we get into Main Street, which is the topic of the show this evening, I did want to give you a chance to tell our viewers a little bit about your background. Last time you were here, I was joking. We had so many folks. We were kind of pressed for time, and I know a lot of our viewers may have even voted for you, but may have not, heard your story. So if you could share that with us.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I spent the first 20 years after I graduated from college in the Coast Guard. I lived all around the United States. I really enjoyed that. I really got a good sense of, what other communities are like, from San Francisco up to New London, Connecticut, which was a little bit depressed at the time. And so it was really a good experience for me. I lived in Detroit for quite a while, and Detroit's had a lot of problems.
Yes, sir.
So it really gave me a really good, a lot of good insight into how communities were solving their issues or not. And so I think that was very helpful. And then after I got out of the Coast Guard, I retired, and I was primarily in the Washington, D.C. area until about 11 years ago when I moved down here to Oak Ridge for a job. And it's been fabulous. I have actually I have 4 kids, 2 11-year-old twin boys who are in the Oak Ridge schools. They're both at Robertsville right now.
Okay.
And my wife is president of the school district PTA, and she also is the Robertsville PTA. So I think the whole family is really into Oak Ridge and everything about it. So.
Absolutely. And when you moved here, what made you want to run for city council? Where does that public service?
Well, I think of being in the Coast Guard was public service primarily.
Sure, absolutely.
But I also we decided we were going to live here. I mean, this is where we're going to settle. And so I wanted to get involved in something that could make a difference in the city. And the city council, not city council, the planning commission was open, and I put my name into the hat, and I was fortunate to be selected and served on the planning commission for about 5 years. And it was fascinating because you really got a good sense of what happens in the city. I mean, how we zone things, how we develop things, and things like that. So it was great training for being on the city council.
And some of our viewers know you're actually chairman of the Oak Ridge Housing Initiative, chairman of the Budget Committee. You've served on the Planning Commission, so you have a lot of insight on this specific issue that we are talking about tonight. We had the mayor very eloquently lay out his thoughts on the matter. If you could, from your vantage point with that wealth of experience, how do you see this issue? Where are we at? What's it looking like from your vantage point?
Well, it's fascinating. I mean, I absolutely agree. Rick Chin and I and the mayor all voted for the proposed change. And the reason I think is because it's critical to continue to develop the downtown, to build our tax base, which is, we have high taxes, and there's no denying that when you compare us to parts of Knox County and things like that. This was a great opportunity to develop the area. And one of the things that's, I think it's important, people sometimes forget that we're talking about 80 acres.
Sure.
The downtown section is really about 200 acres. So it's a substantial portion of it, but it's not the whole downtown. And what we see happening really a lot of, nothing sells like success.
Absolutely.
And so the mall being a success, and one of the things that the mayor talked about was our tax revenue has gone up 14%, and this year already we're up 5% more. So that's on top of the 14% we grew last time. And that is really very important for us, for our school system. Our mayor talked about the schools, and that's the crown jewel from my perspective of Oak Ridge. And it also helps our success helps breed success. That's an old saying.
Sure.
And we look forward to the fact that we're being successful, that other people are being attracted to the city. Another really big thing, I'm very passionate about our housing. I lead the Chamber of Commerce's housing executive group, and we actually bring together every single organization in the city, the Housing Authority, the land bank, anybody who touches land. We have realtors who belong to the group also. And we just come together and brainstorm about what can we do that's going to continue to increase the housing desirability in the city. As the mayor mentioned, we have 4 brand new housing developments going on in the city. The one on the far west end, Rarity Oaks, not anymore, but the old Rarity Oaks is doing phenomenal. They actually, I believe, sold over 45 new homes, and they're hoping to build 80 new homes next year. So all of these things are very, very positive. And from my perspective, to be successful, these things all have to come together. The retail has to come together because people want to have a place to shop. The schools have to thrive. And the new housing stock needs to come in. And quite frankly, one of the things that we're seeing in the housing market is that Hardin Valley and the places where people have been going before to build and sell houses is beginning to price itself out. And Oak Ridge is starting to look very desirable.
On that point, a couple weeks ago on the show, we had a couple of representatives from Tin Bank on who do a lot of mortgages. They were talking about the need for housing in Oak Ridge, for middle-class housing, that there's buyers out there, but we're just needing more of it. And if you could talk a little bit about how, if this construction was to slow down, like the mayor was talking about, that could have a negative impact on housing, I suppose.
It could. I think that again, it's the combination of things that bring
everything's connected.
Everything is connected, and it all brings it together. I think that we will be successful. We will make the changes we need to make in the new area in the mall. But it seems to be a stumbling block. We think, obviously we would always be concerned about our developer. Is he going to decide? He's got a lot of projects all around the country, and we want him to continue to be focused on us. We want him to continue to be successful because, again, everything is tied together, and him being successful, I think, will make the city successful. So we're continuing to work on that, and I think we'll be able to work with the Planning Commission and the rest of the City Council. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is dedicated to Oak Ridge.
That's the
to a
thing.
person.
Absolutely.
You know, no matter how they voted, they all are dedicated to the city.
Absolutely.
And you know, most of them have served up to 2 terms on City Council, and they understand the issues and things like that. So I think we're going to be successful at the end of the day, though.
I couldn't agree more, and I know everyone on the council has Oak Ridge's best interest at heart, and I'm very confident this will get worked out fairly soon. If you could talk about the positive impact that Main Street has already had in Oak Ridge. You mentioned those numbers. I know those don't happen without a lot of hard work.
Oh, and again, as the mayor pointed out, you know, our sales tax in Anderson County increased by 14% last fiscal year. Now, and they've already gone up 5.6% this fiscal year. And so, you know, we see that as a very positive thing. That includes Christmas, and we tend, the numbers that we have to work with tend to lag because they come down from the state, and they typically are 3 months behind. But it's been very positive. I mean, it's very, very positive of what's happening. And then if you drive around town, you know, it sounds silly, but we got a brand new Jack in the Box. Now, it's not that it's Jack in the Box per se, but it's new business. People are seeing, and they made a huge investment to come in and build that store. They've done, and as you look down the road, down the Oak Ridge Turnpike, either way, people are spending money here. I mean, they're seeing that it's a growing area. There's money to be made, and that's important for the retailers. And there's a lot of new businesses. The council gets invited to grand openings all the time, and I would say we're having a grand opening weekly in the city, which is a sign that people are coming in and they're actually saying, well, this is a good place to do business. The taxes are reasonable. All the rents are very reasonable. And so we're seeing a lot of good developments. Very, very exciting.
Absolutely. I was telling the mayor of lifelong Anderson County, and I've never seen Oak Ridge thriving like it is now in the last 4 years. What would you say to people? We've had a lot of comments on this show when it was announced, a lot of passionate opinions. What would you say to people that maybe say we need to slow down, maybe we're giving too much to realty right now, too much focus? I know you're making the point how everything is connected. It does affect our schools, but what would you say to those critics maybe that say slow down a bit?
Well, I think that if you have a good plan, it doesn't restrict how fast you go.
Sure.
If you have a plan, it's got a framework, you know where you're going, you should go full speed ahead and get as much done as possible. Every time we delay, like for instance, the mayor talked about the 4 retailers that they had to call, Realty Link had to call and say, you know, we're not going to be ready for you when we thought we would be. It's money we've lost. And, you know, so I have a hard time. And the other thing too, this is going to be done in 3 phases. The mayor talked about phase 1 is done. Phase 2 is what we were really focused on for our last set of hearings. And then phase 3, which is the final phase, which is the potential apartments, condos, whatever it might make sense to do with, economically for the builder. And he will tell us, the builder tells us all the time, I don't build houses.
Sure.
He builds stores. So, you know, he's obviously looking for somebody to come in and help him probably do that down the road. But those are 3 phases, and they're things that can be done one thing at a time. Once we get started, I think, you know, they build on each other. My favorite subject is there's a place called Pentagon Square. It's down near the Pentagon in Virginia, and it's fabulous because it's exactly what we've talked about a long time. On the first floor are all the grocery stores, restaurants, things like that, where people can go and have a good time and enjoy themselves. And then it's got 3 stories of apartments. And so it's really, from my perspective, it's a perfect model for the kinds of things we'd like to see here. And we are having success. We started talking a little bit about the apartments that are projected across the street from the mall, and those are going to be very nice. They've, you know, he's got it all laid out. He's shown us pictures of what, you know, architectural drawings, I would call them at this time. But again, that's right next to the mall, and where can people go to restaurants and go shopping and everything else? It almost creates a built-in audience for your mall. So, you know, so again, I get very excited about this because I see so many good things happening in Oak Ridge.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with all the exciting things that are happening. It's an exciting time to live in Oak Ridge. We are going to have to go to a commercial break, but before we do that, I do want to take another moment to thank our sponsor this week, Peter's Jewelers, right here in Oak Ridge. 2 weeks till Valentine's Day. Gentlemen, ladies, you do still have a little bit of time to go get that last-minute gift. You can look on the screen there. You can see all that for $99. It's a one-stop shop to get all your Valentine's needs. Please give them a call and check them out online. We can't thank them enough for sponsoring the show this week. We'll be right back with more of Councilman Kelly Callison. Be right back after this.
When it's time for your engagement plan, see the professionals at Peter's Jewelers. You will find a huge bridal selection of wedding rings for all tastes and budgets. And at Peter's Jewelers, their skilled jewelers can handcraft just about any piece. If you can dream it, Peter's Jewelers can make it. Peter's Jewelers is a family-owned company with years of experience providing good old-fashioned customer service with attention to every detail. When quality counts, trust the professionals at Peter's Jewelers. 1159 Oak Ridge Turnpike in Oak Ridge.
After doing the reverse mortgage, I found out it's not too good to be true. I can travel now. I actually have a savings account that I was unable to maintain before. And I can do the things that I really want to do. And the house, the beauty of it, it's all true. I own the house, and now it doesn't own me.
Stop by your 10 Bank today, 463-9444.
I remember the moment
I'll never forget that moment.
that changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life to somebody from my hometown. See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
We are ASAP of Anderson. We are celebrating 10 years of prevention, powered by more than 11,000 hours given by volunteers like you. Together, we've reduced underage substance misuse in our county by 53.5%. Our brand has changed, but our mission remains the same. Prevention works.
Welcome back to This Week in Anderson County. And before we get back to our discussion, I do want to show you what you would get with the $99 at Peter's Jewelers. It's, of course, almost Valentine's Day. We have a rose that is actually dipped in 24 karat gold. You get all this for $99, a set of freshwater pearls, and actually some chocolate. So it's a one-stop shop for all your Valentine's needs. Please go see them and tell them that you saw it on This Week in Anderson County. It's a wonderful set there. Getting back to our discussion with Councilman Kelly Callison, thank you again for joining us. We were going over the Main Street Oak Ridge debate. One of the things about this debate is the idea of multi-use businesses, a more integrated. Some folks want to see a more integrated approach. Could you explain that to our viewers, that argument?
Well, I could probably talk about it from the developer's point of view a little
Sure.
bit better. One of the things that the developer has stressed with us, and he's one of the top 20 developers in the country, is that stores want to be together. They want to have walkability. They want you to be able to go from one store to another store to another store. So, for instance, Penny's is really interested in having the stores connect right next to them so you get all that foot traffic. So once you're on that side of the mall, it's easy to get around there. Now, one of the things that was sort of a sticking point with the Planning Commission and City Council was that they wanted to be very specific about kinds of things to do, like put a sidewalk here, put something here, be very specific, change the parking lot and everything else. And I understand where they're coming from, but from my perspective,
Oh, you're fine.
The thing is that we need to give the mall developer concepts that we'd like to see him implement, and let him implement them in the best fashion possible that takes into account the way the mall is laid out, what kind of future plans they have, and everything else. And one of the things that came up that I thought was fascinating is the number of reserved parking spots in our parking lot that belong to Penny's, that belong to Cinemark, and to the other stores. And those are deeded to them. Walmart has a huge number of parking spots. And so the mall, our mall developers having to try to move these things around, if you will, sort of like a little Chinese puzzle about how to fit them together, and so it makes sense. Because people keep saying, well, just change this whole thing. You can't change it. It's in the deed, and it was given away by the previous mall developer. So.
And all that is actually planned out to the parking space.
Yes, it is.
So I think people might find that hard to believe.
Fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, as far as serving on the planning commission, what is the debate there? Are they in support of, where are they at on this specific issue?
Well, we haven't heard that they've changed their mind at all. I think that we were fairly, I think we came to a reasonable accommodation. There were some, we actually have, I actually have a copy of what we did.
Sure.
But we actually went through and we agreed to certain things that they wanted to include. The developer said, well, these are things I can't do that.
Sure.
And so at the end of the evening, after we did this during the working session, I think we had a fairly reasonable agreement between what the developer needed, what the planning commission needed, and what the council thought was reasonable to accept between the two of them. So, and that's it's important. We want him to be successful because we want him to come back and build more stores and do a lot of other things.
Absolutely. And on that note, positive note, we have to end our discussion. I do want to thank you for being here and want to thank you for your service to the county. As I told the mayor, I've seen more accomplished in the last 4 years than I have in a long time. I think y'all are on the right track, and just keep at it because it's.
Really appreciate having a chance to talk about this, and I think it's an important issue.
Absolutely. And I do want to encourage our viewers at home to contact their city councilman. Let them know what you think on this issue either way. We've seen an enormous amount of feedback. There they all are. Go to the website for their phone number, email, Oak Ridge. Just Google the city of Oak Ridge, and you'll get it all there. Let them know what you're thinking. This is a really interesting issue. We appreciate you joining us this week. We'll be back live next week with another show. Have a good evening.
When it's time for your engagement plan, see the professionals at Peters Jewelers. You will find a huge bridal selection of wedding rings for all tastes and budgets. And at Peters Jewelers, their skilled jewelers can handcraft just about any piece. If you can dream it, Peters Jewelers can make it. Peters Jewelers is a family-owned company with years of experience providing good old-fashioned customer service with attention to every detail. When quality counts, trust the professionals at Peters Jewelers. 1159 Oak Ridge Turnpike in Oak Ridge.
We are ASAP of Anderson. We are celebrating 10 years of prevention, powered by more than 11,000 hours given by volunteers like you. Together, we've reduced underage substance misuse in our county by 53.5%. Our brand has changed, but our mission remains the same. Prevention works.
After doing the reverse mortgage, I found out it's not too good to be true. I can travel now. I actually have a savings account that I was unable to maintain before. And I can do the things that I really want to do. And the house, the beauty of it, it's all true. I own the house. And now it doesn't own me.
Stop by your 10 Bank today, 463-9444.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Well, my name is Carmel Beatty, and this is my son Lachlan, and he's 4. He has Down syndrome. And a couple of years ago, we looked for a program for him to attend a daycare or a preschool, And we really weren't prepared for the obstacles that we encountered when we were looking for a program for him, just because he's not on the developmental level of a typical child. But we found the Early Learning Center, and without hesitation, they said they would be happy to have him, they would be happy to serve him, and he has really enjoyed coming here. He's been here